if you know who Ed Camper is, he's a man with a very, very pleasant voice. And they got him to do a bunch of their audio readings, including the novelizations of the Star Wars trilogy. Ed Camper is a serial killer.
Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, everyone. And welcome to the Snack Covenant episode 322. And today we have a very special guest with us, who's also everybody's roommate.
Oh, is this the part where I say, hey, I'm sorry, I've never done one of these before. I'm still learning this stuff. I listen to podcasts a lot, but I've never done this.
Well, you know what? Since you've never done this, I think we should do a meditation exercise.
Oh, okay.
I'd like everybody to close their eyes.
All right.
Imagine you're at a beach and visualize the sun.
Hello,
I, of course, am talking about our Icelandic sun.
it's me, Bonko.
For anyone who's new to the podcast, IP, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Internet Pitstop, also known as your favorite shitty internet roommate. I stand in front of a green screen and I talk about stuff I like. And sometimes I'm funny. Sometimes.
Wow, you're living the dream. For anyone who's new to the podcast, may you please introduce yourself, Acer?
Hello, it's me, Acer. I'm not actually Bongo. Bongo. That was just an elaborate ruse. I'm Acer. I do a lot of these with Sophie and Sinclair from time to time. And now I'm here.
Roommate.
Yes.
You told us that Solaire is like one of your favorite people ever.
Oh, yeah. He's one of my, anime dads. Love that guy.
So let me ask you, IP.
Yeah.
What does Solaire mean to you?
I mean, when I started playing Dark Souls 1, which is probably my favorite Dark Souls, I'm between that or Elden Ring. I don't know if that's a basic take, but I like those a lot. And I started real late too. I think I started playing Dark Souls when Sekiro came out on the Switch. And there was a lot of Joy-Con drift. So you know that part in Anor Londo when you have to go through the little
oh my god,
tiny little what are they called?
Yeah.
Those.
Yeah.
That with Joy-Con drift was insane. I don't know why I didn't get new ones. I just kind of was nah, I have to go with this. I'm going to keep doing this anyway. I made it part of it. And but seeing Solaire at the end of it all, especially after doing all that, the Joy-Con drift, dying a bunch, dealing with the archers. When I peeked through the window and next to that bonfire, I saw that man. Oh man, the hope I had, the light in my heart. I was like, this guy, that's when I knew, this dude's my anime dad. I love this guy, and I want to do anything I can to protect him. I wanted to protect him, And yeah, that's I guess that's what he means to me. He's hope.
Aww.
How did protecting him work out for you?
Oh, Sophie, don't ruin the moment.
I believe first playthrough, did he? Yeah, he died. He did die. Unfortunately, I did have the moment where, I had to see him die. And it really sucked. And so yeah, I didn't do any research as I was playing. I kind of just played and it did what I could. And yeah, so that did lead to him unfortunately passing.
Oh, what does Solaire mean to you, Acer?
I really like Solaire too. You go up there, you talk to him. I really like the framing when you first meet him because he's shows his back to you. He's looking up. It's very obviously kind of signaled that this isn't an enemy. Just relax, talk to this guy. He's also really important story-wise because he talks to us about how time is stagnant.
I think you mean convoluted.
No, you've had this conversation on the podcast before, right?
Yes, we've had Loki
many
times before.
I have heard this conversation too. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, every podcast is somebody's first podcast. So yeah, time is not convoluted; it's stagnant, and that sort of sets up the theme of the game. And then they had to just make it more overt in the third one because the translation errors and such. And yeah, I really like Solaire too. I think that he's what's his name? Daniel Flynn? Is that the guy who voices him?
Benson from Cyber City Oedo.
Well, or Alfred from Bloodborne.
No, Cyber City Oedo, that's the one. That's the club that's going in.
You wouldn't recognize a goddamn vampire if one jumped up and bit you on the end of your fucking dick.
Because in Dark Souls 3, with all the references to Dark Souls 1 characters, why do you think they never, what do you think made them decide to not bring Solaire back in, a real way? Like, as a full-on person? Because he's, is it lore accurate that he's, the worm? Is he the worm?
No.
Or something?
No.
The worm thing is literally just the worm has a lightning attack.
Okay, good.
Everyone's
okay,
like, well,
good.
obviously the worm is
I've heard
Solaire.
so many things. I've heard he's the worm. I heard he's the soup. But I wonder, because they brought back Sigurd. They brought back a lot of. I was wondering, why do you think they didn't bring back Solaire?
I think that Solaire, his story just works much better if you assume that he's even if he's not personally the chosen undead, that he's one of the Lords of Cinder, that he's one of the guys who linked the fire.
Yeah, if you used Solaire to beat Gwyn, he is the Soul of Cinder. So there you go.
Oh,
that's true.
He's the nameless king.
Oh yeah, of course.
How do y'all feel about that? Did y'all prefer the whole mistranslation that he?
No.
Did y'all like that at all? That he was the son?
No.
Of Gwyn? No.
I think it was wonderful in terms of you really get to see just how you can think of whatever theory you want, but it has to make sense. There's a lot of evidence that you can sort of link to it, but narratively it doesn't really follow. And so you have to be able to sort of discount that.
Excuse me, Aesir. Solaire, the heir of the sun.
You got it.
Oh.
Clearly.
Did you know that his name comes from Solar? That's his actual name, and they just flowered it up in the localization?
Well, maybe in the localization they wanted to make him French. Solaire,
Oh. Why didn't they get a French accent, though?
Do I have a French accent? I'm from Quebec. I don't have a French accent.
So wait, Solaire is from Quebec now?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is ironic, because it's not very sunny there.
Oh.
Maybe that's why he's looking for the sun. You've solved it.
Oh my god.
Good evening, I am Yharnam, the Pthumerian Queen, and I'm here to talk about regrets. Whilst my biggest regret in life is my friends, Sophie and Sin's biggest is not mentioning something called Katekyo Hitman Reborn during this episode, as apparently Internet Pitstop is a big fan of it. Yes, the one time Sin was courteous enough not to bore her guests stupid with references to whatever that was the one time they would actually have responded to her. The lesson to all of you out there listening is that if you must adopt an obnoxious running joke, you should at least do it consistently. Further Katekyo Hitman Reborn content is available on Sophie and Sin's Patreon, which I will not be promoting.
So I really didn't like the idea of Solaire as the god of war.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, Solaire accompanies you when you fight Ornstein and Smo together, and then it seems like this big climactic triumphant moment, and the next time you see him, he's all depressed. He's like, I didn't find the sun.
Would we assume that he, maybe not that he killed the illusion, but do you think he knows?
Does he know? Question mark.
That
well,
it's
I think the
dark
whole,
in Anor Londo? The fact they didn't find the sun, right? I mean...
Yeah, because his whole thing is I'm looking for the sun, and he never finds it. And to me, that idea from starting off is very, optimistic and sort of driven, I'm going to find the sun, and then getting all the way to where you'd think the sun would be in Anor Londo, which is the city of the sun. And it's not there. And then he sort of, he has this, crisis moment, and he's, at the altar later on. Well, where was it? Then he ends up doing this bizarre thing where he's like, well, the sun wasn't up there, I'm going to have to go down. And he goes all the way down to Lost Island, where clearly there is no sun there, it's underground. But that sort of desperation he has to find the sun and his inability to find it, and him sort of I always read the last half of Solaire's quest as him sort of the stages of grief, and this is denial. Mm-hmm. It's denial, the sun wasn't there, well, it's got to be somewhere, and then he's in the bargaining stage of maybe it's underground.
It's also a very interesting sort of obsession that he has, where he is completely, his life's purpose is finding the sun, and when he should have the realization that no, you're doing the wrong thing, he just sort of doubles down, and it leads him to his ultimate demise.
Yeah, yeah.
Do they have a sun in Australia? I hear it's very cold all the time. What?
It's cold where I am.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
The sun's out. I mean, I can't tell because the curtains are drawn. It might be not.
I think Solaire should come to Arizona. We have a lot of sun.
Don't you have a lot of insects there too? Maybe he did go to Arizona. Maybe the demon's room is in Arizona.
That's not that far off. I mean,
and yeah, that whole arc of like sort of believing in something and then it not being there, and sort of not wanting to accept that it's gone. To me, that always fitted more like someone who is just like a guy who buys into this legend than it did like he's the wayward son of royalty.
And they even they talk about this in isn't it his shield or something, his armor set, where they're like, yeah, there's no magical enchantment here. He's just a really good guy. He's just
a dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking about that, I think you're undermining what his set actually means, Acer.
I think you are overmining.
Because based on, Solaire and his item descriptions, the way I envision him is that, like, he's a person who comes from a really humble background, whose dream it was to get into the Sunlight Academy, whatever it's called. I don't remember. And he does get in with hard work and perseverance and without any connections and without, much wealth. And once he gets there, he has to make his own getup because he can't actually afford any fancy sets or any fancy armor. And that's why it says like, oh, he drew his own thing, his own sound. He had to, he couldn't even hire a designer for his logo. He had to come up with his own logo,
Yeah. We've all had to do that at some point. It's terrible.
He's like a small content creator,
Yeah. And I literally just took an island from a video game and put 2 letters on it. He just took a sun and put like a really blank face on it. And honestly, I respect it. I think it looks good.
Yeah, so I think
that's like
go ahead.
That's really important because if you look at the other sets in like Sigma's set, like that's the Katarina set. Everyone from Katarina wears that, and like the Lautrec set, like it's
very sort of Game of Thronesy, where it's like if you read the books, it's like people dressed in these ornate, amazing outfits where they're like, oh yeah, his outfit, he's just like in an armored raven suit. And then you have like the Knight of Flowers, and it's just like this insanely decorative, beautiful armor. But then you have Solaire, and it's just like, yeah, chainmail, some cloth. I have a bucket on my head.
Yeah. When can I cut in and just talk about how much I love the character creation music? I love that theme. So I listen to that theme like every day. Yeah. It's like I don't know if I like that one more or the Demon Souls one, but like one of those is like my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of the games do you think has the best soundtrack?
Overall soundtrack? Ooh.
Yeah.
There's one right answer.
There's one right answer?
One right answer.
Armored Core for answer.
No, Sophie, stop. This is serious.
You're ruining it, Sophie.
I really like Demon Souls' soundtrack a lot. And so probably maybe that one. I think I would go with that one. I think that one's probably my favorite. It's either that one or DS1 for me.
Yeah.
I like very like atmospheric music, and I feel like they really lean, like I feel like a lot of like the later games, like the music doesn't really like get into the music part until like I don't know, like you're 3 minutes into the song. But I feel like there was a lot more focus with Demon Souls music on like actually making a really like good rhythm that I could just like listen to start to finish. Mm-hmm. So I like that. I like that.
I think that's because like Demon Souls, the bosses tend not to have phases to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like one track throughout, whereas by like Dark Souls 3, it's like 3 to 4 phase boss fights. So like every piece of music needs like to build up, and then has to be like it's got to like every piece of music has to be structured to have like 3 or 4 parts to it.
Let me ask you, regardless of what you think the best overall music is, what's your favorite boss music in the Souls game?
There's a special place in my heart for the Sif theme. I love that Sif theme. There's a lot of good themes in these games.
Radagon's theme?
Radagon is a lot of Elden Ring ones are good too. Like the obvious one is the Apostle ones, the Godskin Apostles. I mean, you got Plim Plim Plon. Can't beat that.
How do you feel about Gurman's theme?
I love Gurman's theme. Isn't that the one that the traveler merchants play in Elden Ring?
Gurman's theme.
What?
Is it Gurman's theme they play?
No. Yeah, they're like. What
video did I see? I thought I saw a video where they said they play Gurman's theme as like a reference.
They might play something close to Gurman's theme because it's the same composer.
Yeah, maybe they play actually the same thing. Because his theme is like, how's his theme go? It's like, it's too big. You can't do it on a little do kind of track. It's too big, too lofty.
Oh, you got Ludwig 2.
That's the one I've been waiting for.
That's another.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I have a hard time choosing the best.
You guys, did you get chills when Ludwig pulled out the sword?
That was like the best incorporation of the Moonlight Greatsword. It's hard to top that.
It was spoiled for me.
How was it spoiled for you?
Some asshole made a YouTube video where it was the thumbnail before I had bought the DLC, and it was like,
oh no.
I'm so happy when that second phase came in because like I have a hard time with that. Like there's parts of me that doesn't like that first phase because there's like that one hitbox where he like tackles you and there's like 2 hitboxes in there and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But when he turns to that second phase, I'm like, okay, this is better.
Yeah. And because it's just like a giant swordsman and you know how to fight those.
Yeah.
And his insane physiology, all his extra legs, they just deactivated. He's just like a giant guy with a sword.
Yeah. But
really
no,
cool.
Those character creation themes, they always hold a special place in my heart. Like I spend a lot of time making characters in Dark Souls because I just like, I don't know why, I've always had a thing for making characters. I love doing that.
Do you get into the little filters and stuff?
Oh yeah. I spend hours doing that. And at the end it's just like, oh, I made a kind of not ugly guy. Like, cause like, no matter what you do on these games, you always get kind of an ugly person. Like it's really hard. Like maybe in Elden Ring. Elden Ring's the one time where I was like, okay, I kind of made some pretty people. Let's go. But like it usually starts, I make a fantasy version of me. And then from there I make my girlfriend. And then I just start making like random characters of like I like build an RPG party.
You're
like that's
playing
like
these
my
games
thing.
like The Sims.
Yeah. I just like making characters. I'm like, okay, my whole mission is I'm gonna get this weapon for this character because it'll be cool. Like that's what I do. And like with DS1, like I just listen to that theme and I make that character. And I always pick the Ryan Reynolds face. You guys know the Ryan Reynolds face? There's like that one face preset that just looks like Ryan Reynolds. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Play DS1.
I have to reinstall and find it.
Let me look at the preset. There is a preset that just looks like Ryan Reynolds. I'll look up the name. Y'all talk. I'll have to look up this name.
We have to vamp.
Did you guys ever make a perfect character and then turn them sideways and it's horrible?
Oh yeah, because the nose length and the eyebrow bridge and all that, yeah. Bloodborne has this weird thing with the chin where there's like a polygon here under the jaw and above the neck somewhere where like if you position it correctly you can just have like a turkey jiggly thing just jutting out of your neck, like a spike just shooting out of your neck. It's I don't understand what it is.
I just looked it up. If you search Dark Souls 1 Ryan Reynolds, the face will come up.
Late at night, I think of you, your vision floods my mind.
It's like the first thing I noticed when I started playing the game. I was like, yo, they got Ryan Reynolds in this bitch. Oh, can I cuss?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Just making sure.
No, I remember when we first started off, Sin used to bleep us and then she just gave up.
I like bleeping, but I always like to use like funny sound effects. Like one of my favorites is whenever I talk about Dark Souls or Souls games, I always use the DS1. Oh, like the male grunt sound that just sounds like he's moaning. I use that for all my like sensors when I talk about Souls games.
Did you know that you can actually save Solaire and that there are 2 ways to do it?
What's the other way? But I'm guessing the normal way is the like where you kill the little bug thing beforehand, right?
Mm.
Wait, are you talking? Well, I know you can do it through you open the door, right? And can't you like spit poison gas through the door without opening it too?
So if you aggro Solaire before the bug gets him, then you break his quest line and you can't advance anymore. And if you finish Isolith, then you can get to Oswald the partner, and you can pay him the souls. He'll pardon your sins. He'll de-aggro Solaire, and then you can start his quest up again. And since Isolith is finished, it just checks the variable, and then he's off to the next patch as if you saved him.
Oh, I did not know that. That's cool.
But why would you want to aggro Solaire? That's so mean.
To save his ass.
I'm doing it for your own good.
But yeah.
DS1 has like my favorite cast of characters. What are y'all's like favorite cast out of like all the games?
It is probably Dark Souls 1, because Dark Souls 1, you are so free from any central hub. You do flow back into Firelink Shrine a lot, but because the game, like with the Estus system specifically, you're so independent in the world, and you keep just organically meeting all these characters again and again. I think that really, really connects. Whereas like in Bloodborne, you have the Hunter's Dream, but there's only 2 characters you meet there. Then you can go to Eden Chapel and meet the characters that you save, but like once you've killed Vicar Amelia, there's never a point where you would go back there organically. So it's like...
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like a lot of the characters come about your journey pretty organically. Like, as you're going, they just show up, they're there.
Yeah.
But, like, especially with, like, DS3, where, like, it kind of got convoluted. Like, how the hell was I supposed to know that Sieg Ward was going to be in a well? Like you know, like, there are points where, like, why would I ever go back? But with DS1, it makes sense because the world has you constantly going back and forth and everywhere. But yeah, like with like DS3, that was like the problem I had with that.
I really do like this about the DLCs, like the Old Hunters DLC and even the Ring City DLC, the favorite DLC of this podcast. Like you have Patches the Unbreakable. That's just a story that you unlock as you're moving through the area. Same with like Simon in the Old Hunters, the Seeker of Secrets. You just constantly meet the guy on your journey. It's very clean. He doesn't load in all the time, so you have to like reload a few times. But I think there's something wrong with the code they use to reload them, or to like advance the script triggers for the quests.
It's because I think you have to like have reloaded the map for him to appear there. He won't spawn dynamically. So you have to like reload areas every time you want him to do anything.
That might make sense. Makes sense. All right. Sophie solves another problem of Bloodborne.
Bloodborne is perfect.
But yeah, one of the things I really liked about that whole like world design with Dark Souls 1, am I allowed to talk like am I allowed to talk rumors for future games?
That's absolutely. Like we
encourage.
Have y'all heard about the rumors about the spell? What is it called? Spellbound, the apparently Magic Souls game that's coming out.
Yeah,
it's like only rumors.
Yeah, I've heard like vague things that maybe this exists, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, so like from the rumors at least, for what's been coming out, they've been saying that the world design, it apparently like you're going to start in a single town or a city that's kind of like the Dark Souls 1 level design, the whole 3D Metroidvania kind of thing. But when you eventually come out of that city, it'll be like a smaller-ish open world to Elden Ring. So they kind of like mix and match the two. And I was like, that's really cool. Like I think that's a great way to like marry the idea. Cause I love Elden Ring's world design, but a part of me did wish like when it was coming out, I thought like for sure they were going to do something along the lines of Dark Souls 1, like in a kind of bigger aspect. And I don't know if these rumors are true. Like I'm pretty hyped to see that because like that's like the best. That's like my favorite thing about Dark Souls 1 is that first half of the game where it's all interconnected and stuff.
And like with Elden Ring, I was really disappointed because their level design and their scenario directions and like the set pieces and the moments and the encounters with the enemies is so incredible in their games. Even like the lesser ones, there's still a lot of amazing things there. But Elden Ring, it's just like level design, there's some of that in like the Subterranean Shunning Ground. There's some of that in like Raya Lucaria, but it's like it's very like it's more just about like these cool epic moments. But so I would love this.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really cool idea. Like, because I remember same here. Like when I got to Raya Lucaria, there was a lot of reasons why I was like. There's a lot of reasons to be like disappointed with that area. Like the level design's kind of weird, and it's also like, why does this school have so many graveyards? Like that's something I really miss about Demon Souls, where like Demon Souls was so good about like making things feel like a real place.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm.
And then like
Yeah.
when I play like Elden Ring, really just like, oh man, when I like, why does this school have so many graveyards?
Every shortcut in Elden Ring is either a door you open or an elevator you activate.
Yeah,
Whereas-
that just got
Yeah.
worse and worse. Where like,
With
yeah,
like Demon Souls, it's like no, in
Mhm.
Stone Fangs, it's like you have to activate like mine elevators, and you have to like
Yeah.
open cell doors in Latria.
it all made
It's like,
sense with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus like, and as I feel like the series went on, that just got like, oh, it just became a door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in like Valley of Defilement, you're knocking down the little bridges
Mhm.
and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What we need to do is take away Miyazaki's money and give him another failing project.
yeah,
I guess, like, to me, Dark Souls feels like a Zelda game, but it feels like it's growing out of like the NES ones.
Mhm.
Because to me, like the change in the Zelda series, it's not necessarily like hit the thing in the eye, but it's the way that they got progressively more like there's more sort of barriers put down to stop you doing the wrong thing.
Mm.
Whereas in like original Zelda, you can just wander like wherever at the start of the game.
Yeah, like it went from like we want you to be lost to let's guide this so they don't get. And it's funny because I think I don't know why I just research random things and I'm like, oh, has Miyazaki ever like talked about Zelda, or has Miyamoto ever talked about Dark Souls? And like the one thing it's only one thing that I ever find is like Miyazaki talks about like his influence of Zelda and how he feels honored to be influenced by it. But he brings up the fact that like he feels they're very different in the way that Zelda doesn't want you to get lost, and he makes his games so that you get lost. So it's like, yeah, it's exactly what he's going for.
Yeah.
Mm. I love Miyamoto was once asked if his games are art, and he was like, "Nope, they're products. Nintendo doesn't make art games."
Oh my
It's like-
god!
What are you talking about?
I feel like Japanese people lie about that kind of stuff all the time. As like a person who loves anime, right? You don't know how many times I've done research on something that's like have you guys seen the movie Angel's Egg?
Yeah.
It's like an 80s. Okay,
Yeah.
that movie is clearly have some depth, some deep message to it. It has to, right? You go check the interviews and the guy, and Oshii, the Mamoru Oshii, the director of Ghost in the Shell, he's like, I don't know what it means. Yeah, fucking right. You know what it means. You're just like they all do this. They all act like they're like, oh no, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, right. You know there's some meaning. You just don't want to tell us. All we know really is that when he made that film, he was like losing his faith in Christianity. That's all we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But like, yeah, it's like I feel like they'd be lying. I don't know.
He just
Yeah.
doesn't want to admit he copied the Ringed City.
That's true.
Oh yeah, he stole from Miyazaki.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that film help you all understand Ring City DLC? Yeah, me neither.
Have you seen there is an American version of Angel's Egg?
Oh no.
What?
Is
It's
there?
so fucking weird.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, it's Angel's Egg, but they splice in live action segments.
Oh,
that,
no,
like,
yeah,
has
yeah,
people...
yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a video about it. I didn't watch it. I watched a guy talk about it.
It's so... I've forgotten what it's called, but it's so bizarre. It's on YouTube. Like, someone just uploaded
It
it.
is-
No one's bothered taking
It is
down.
one of the weirdest adaptations ever.
Mm.
Yeah. It came up because right now I'm working on like a big giant video about anime background art, and obviously Angel's Egg anime background art kind of have to talk about that. And yeah, that came up. And yeah, really weird adaptation of that film.
What's your least favorite North American adaptation of Japanese content?
Any Japanese content? I mean, it's kind of the obvious one, but like the Dragon Ball Evolution movie.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
That is just like I'm trying to think if it's like that one. I don't think nothing's topped that. There's like no live action I can think of that's topped Dragon Ball Evolution to me. Like the Death Note one was bad too, but like Dragon Ball Evolution, like they basically made Spider-Man, like, but like he's Goku now. Like he goes to school. Like that was really bad. Like I don't know if anything could top that for me.
Is Blue Point a North American studio?
Oh, I know where you're going with that.
Does anybody here like horror?
Yeah, I like horror.
Yeah, because I freaking love Takashi Miike, and One Missed Call is like one of my favorite scary movies.
Mhm.
And it got remade a few years ago, and it was just the worst thing ever. And I literally died.
What's your favorite American adaptation of something Japanese? I have an answer. I think I talked to Acer about this, but it's the
Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh! English dubs.
Oh yeah, I was
Oh.
gonna say.
They butcher the characters, but man, I love those things. They're hilarious. They're wholesome. Oh my God.
Dot salute.
Goku's voice actor's in there. He's doing an Arnold impression. It's great.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Sin and I's jointly is, of course, the English dub of Cyber City Oedo, featuring a lot of people who would later be in Dark Souls, including Solaire's voice actor.
You wouldn't recognize a goddamn vampire if one jumped up and bit you on the end of your fucking dick.
There was like a British localization studio that all the British like manga UK was the company, and they released all this anime in Britain, and that was like they use the same voice actors that Dark Souls uses. There's like this enormous overlap. I don't know if they all have the same agent or something, but they're all in it.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious overlap. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so there is a show called Cyber City Oedo, which is like cyberpunk criminals who like get told to hunt down other criminals to reduce their sentences, and it's like the main characters. It's like Solaire and Andre, the
Yes.
two,
I
and
love
then there's
that.
like the third guy is like I don't think he was ever in Soul stuff, but like the guy who's Carthan Frampt is in like so many of them as just the villain doing the exact same voice.
I love that voice cast. I remember especially him. I remember early on because you know how you could hear him snoring in like the area with the crow. I thought that was the crow. Like for the long, I'm like, why is that crow making that weird noise? And then when he came out, I was like, oh, that was him.
Oh.
DS1 has so many good quotables too. Do you guys have any favorite quotes from DS1?
You wouldn't know a fucking vampire if it cut out a picture of your fucking dick.
Did you know that Ruth Nega, who voiced the Emerald Herald, she has an Academy Award nomination?
Yeah.
Really? What for?
Yeah. Something.
Sweet Shalqua, the talking cat from Dark Souls 2, is in the MCU.
Yeah, she's an Ant-Man.
Ah, that's cool.
Oh my!
I wouldn't know that. I don't care about that movie enough. That's serious.
I've never seen it.
That's like, yeah, I saw the first one, and then like I kind of watched the second one while playing Elden Ring, and then like yeah, because I love the MCU, but like the Ant-Man movies are like the most like here's an MCU movie, you know, like it's like here you go, you know.
I think you're being a hater, IP. I think you're being a hater.
No, I'm not.
It's all right.
Are you telling me? You're telling me right now, Ant-Man's top 3 for you?
The first one.
First one's pretty good. I like the
If
first
given
one's
the
like the
choice,
best one.
I would probably watch Ant-Man over the others.
Yeah, Ant-Man
But
1.
that's
Over
only
Having
because
seen
you
like
haven't
none
seen
of
it.
them.
Really?
No, it's because if you have like I know who's in it, and if you've got like Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Judy Greer, like in the same film, there's a baseline of quality it won't fall below.
Yeah, but Michael Douglas, he was talking about he will not return to the MCU unless it's to die because he hates being in those movies.
Are we just going to get into MCU talk now? Because we can do that.
Who cares? Yeah, let's go.
I know nothing about it.
You know everything. You read the comic books.
No, I don't read the comic books. I read Dragon magazine, which had supplements for the Marvel role-playing game in it, and I read those. So I know who these characters are and what their powers are. I have no idea what they've ever done.
Ah.
I just know their stats in a card game that hasn't been produced for like 50 years.
That's such a weird, like, area to get into the MCU from. I respect that so much. Wow.
Sophie, do you know have you watched the Star Wars movie? Do you know the Star Wars characters from like one of your role-playing games?
No, I've watched Star Wars properly.
All right.
Oh, okay.
So the novelizations of the original Star Wars trilogy, they were recorded into audiobooks. Did you know the story about this?
No.
Oh, okay. So the audiobook company, was run by a bunch of crazy people. And I don't know if this was a money-saving thing or whatever, but if you know who Ed Camper is, he's a man with a very, very pleasant voice, and they got him to do a bunch of their audio readings, including the novelizations of the Star Wars trilogy. Ed Camper is a serial killer.
Oh.
What?
And he was in prison when he was doing the audio recordings for the Star Wars movies.
Wow.
It is an insane story.
Did you just make that up?
No, it's actually... this sounds like a made-up thing. This is real. If your kid was listening to the Star Wars audiobooks in like the 80s and the 90s, they had a serial killer. He may have been one of the cannibal serial killers. He may not have, but he was definitely like slaughtering tons of people. That guy was in your kid's ear.
That's crazy.
Like,
I've got a little bit of Star Wars trivia that'll take us back on track, though.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so you may remember in the original Star Wars, there's a guy who has a very weird fake American accent and goes, "She'll die before she talks." That is an actor called George Rubicek, who later would leave acting to become an anime scriptwriter and write an adaptation of a little gem called Cyber City 080.
Wow.
This is
And
not
that
back
links
on
to
track.
the voice acting of Souls on English.
There we go.
Wow. What anime studio would be best to do it if we had like a Dark Souls 1 anime adaptation?
Adaptation, or we're going to tell a story set in the universe?
What decade is this happening in, though? What decade?
Oh, I guess that...
Because, I can think of a lot of,
scenario.
like 80s, 90s OVA boom. I can see
That's
some
perfect.
massively
exactly
over-budgeted Dark Souls OVA comes out, but it takes 6 years to finish.
When Japan had more money than God, that would be a great OVA. I think you'd get what's the dude's name? The director who made like Wicked City, Demon City Shinjuku, all those like
Kawajiri.
super. That him, him.
Yeah, do you want to know Do you want to know what that guy also worked on?
What did he work on?
A little gem called Cyber City 080.
Oh, right, he did.
Yes.
Yeah. He did that one. He did Goku Midnight Eye, Ninja Scroll. Yeah. All the Japanimation. Don't let your kids watch this. That's just him. Yeah.
I would want Toei Animation, and I want the department that makes those mediocre One Piece animes and like takes the story and stretches it out and ruins the pacing.
Toei Animation is like so crazy, especially like I'm doing that research I've been doing. They do the they're doing these One Piece things and they're like ruining Dragon Ball. But then like you go back to the 2000s, they made the anime Mononoke. Have y'all seen Mononoke?
No,
it's like one of the most beautiful anime ever. Like look up like pictures of Mononoke. It's gorgeous, and it's like when I look up that Toei did it, I'm like astonished. I'm like, what happened to these people? In the 60s they did what's that freaking movie called? Something and the Little Prince and the 8-Headed Dragon or something like that, which is like this movie that like the art style kind of looks like Wind Waker. And kind of looks like Samurai Jack, which Samurai Jack took influence from. So yeah, Toei's interesting. They do something great, or they make Dragon Ball Super. Like I don't know.
Dragon Ball never made it to Iceland. We got Pokemon, we got Yu-Gi-Oh. We didn't get Dragon Ball.
Wait, did you get Dragon Ball Z?
No.
Oh, it's like no Dragon Ball media.
No Dragon Ball. Here.
Wow.
We had SpongeBob. we had the Smurfs. The Smurfs was kind of our Dragon Ball.
Wow.
Hi, Ingrid. You know what we...
Wait, was that a cat?
Yeah,
That was Ingrid.
Ingrid's sitting next to me.
Who are we casting as live action for Dark Souls 1 characters in a movie?
Ooh.
We got to get Ryan Reynolds as the chosen undead.
Yeah.
Chosen undead, Ryan Reynolds, yes.
Let's just kill
Who's
this
playing
movie
Solaire?
at the start. Who's got the best friendly energy? Adam
Oh,
Sandler.
Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's
Rudd is
friendly.
Solaire.
Okay,
If Paul Rudd
that's
is Solaire, my girlfriend will watch. She has a big crush on Paul Rudd, so that'd be great. He would do great there.
All right. Who should play Patches? We should do this like how they do Lex Luthor castings, where it's just who's a bald actor.
Just get the guy who played Lex Luthor in like the what was the show? Smallville. Do the Smallville one. Yeah. Do
Oh,
him.
Michael
yeah.
Rosenbaum,
yeah.
the best
Yeah.
cinematic Lex Luthor we've ever had.
I
Somehow,
love that show.
I watched the entirety of that show.
Oh yeah.
Oof,
Wow.
it was rough. It was all we had for like decades.
That and the Smurfs.
Okay, so we got that. Who's Siegward? Or
Oh, you mean,
Siegmeyer?
Siegmeyer. Who's like Jolly? Jack Black.
Jack Black as Sigma. He would kill it. He'd probably do a song too, like he did with Bowser.
Oh yeah.
About like onions or something. Yeah, something like that. Who's directing?
Takashi Miike. Takashi Miike, he does like... You know what? You laugh. You guys laugh. But let's go on Takashi Miike MDB. I think he's most known for directing like horror stuff and scary things.
Oh.
Would the Dark Souls movie be a horror movie, or would it be like an art house kind of film?
Well, it doesn't
It'll be the
matter
Seventh
because
Seal.
Takashi Miike directed over 100 movies. So
Yeah.
he can direct anything. He directed horror, he directed like teen dramas, he directed sci-fi. You know that JoJo live action?
Oh yeah.
He directed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Could you send me his name on Discord, Sin? I want to check out his movies if he makes a lot of movies. You know who should direct the Dark Souls movie is who's that guy who makes those terrible movies? If I lost it. No.
oh my god.
No, but I'm thinking of like an alt universe where like the Uwe Boll tax loophole and the release of Dark Souls overlap.
Yeah, but I think they closed the tax.
And we get like Dark Souls starring Jason Statham.
as
And just
farmer
shot in,
again.
like, shot in like the woods in like Germany or something.
No, but Sophie, they closed the tax loopholes.
I know.
Aw.
I mean, and Dark Souls kind of has a twist ending, right? Where like you find out like you kind of just sacrificed yourself if you do the sunlight ending. So maybe you get M. Night Shyamalan and he does like a really cool twist ending. What would you think of like this is another silly idea I thought of for Souls games, but you know how like they had the big Coliseums, right? Where you had to do PvP. What if like they started having instances where certain areas you would like reconnect only in these certain areas where like a bunch of other players who are playing Souls at the same time who happen to be in an area they're all there. Like like for example, you go to a specific town in the game and suddenly you see all these other Souls players. Would that take away from the vibe? You think? Or
Well, that's
like,
kind of
not all
what
the
Demon
time.
Souls does in the Nexus. When you're in the Nexus and you see the spirits of the other players running around.
But what if they're actually there? though?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm talking like have you all played Destiny? And you know in Destiny when you're like just chilling in like the chill areas and you just see all the other players and you can like emote
Yeah.
at them and talk to them.
Yeah.
What if Souls did something like that? Or even like
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think I think that'd be a pretty cool idea. Just having little more moments of like connecting with other players.
No, that
I've always
would've been
liked that
cool,
about
yeah.
those games.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's not full on multiplayer. It's just sometimes kind of the way Journey does that too, where like a person
Yeah.
just shows up. I like when the games do that.
I think that the lesson FromSoft is going to take away from us is that they need to have
Yeah,
more
they're obviously
enemies,
watching.
and they need to make the games harder. I think that's the real lesson here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
how do
only
you
make
feel
them
about,
harder by
like-
making the numbers higher.
Yeah,
Don't
and
make the
adding
fights
more
more
enemies.
interesting. Just give it an extra 5 phases that are the same.
Where do you all
Yeah.
stand
Maybe one of them
on-
can start with the music going, oh, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, that one should also have just a room filled with poison too.
Yeah,
And if
and
the,
no-
enemy-
no
if the boss
poison
hits
healing
you, it
items.
gets its health back.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then it just breaks your computer.
I IP, you were saying something before.
Where do you all stand on like? Because there's been arguments about like where Souls combat has kind of gone. You guys, I'm sure you've all seen the video by Matthew Matosis on the Lost Arts of Demon Souls on that idea of like Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and kind of Dark Souls 2 had bosses that were not all about like dodge at the right time, hit at the right time. And as the games kept going, like Elden Ring is like, that's like, I feel like I've always had that idea of like, oh, these games have gotten more like action based and like you have to dodge. I felt that in Dark Souls 3, like a boss like, what's the boss in the DLC that's a woman and it's like the big dad guy, Frida. Yeah, I thought that boss was kind of like I think it was unbalanced for Dark Souls 3. I felt like I was playing a Bloodborne boss.
Yeah,
so I kind of felt
it's
that
like
here and there.
Maria with some slightly
Yeah,
different
exactly.
moves.
I it's weird to me that finally kind of came to a much louder like opinion when Elden Ring came out, because like, it really does that a lot. But like, where do y'all stand on that? Like, do y'all prefer the bosses of them back then? Were they more chill on that, or do you like?
It depends on like what you're doing as a player. Because the thing about Elden Ring's bosses is like the issue with them is not like it's too hard or it's too fast. It's that Elden Ring has such massive build variety that you can make this character that you're very attached to. You learn how to play them, and then you just hit a brick wall. Like, if you're a very slow, heavy weapon user, and you hit Malekith, like, it is a complete nightmare. And the choices are, like, get so frustrated that you borderline quit the game, which happened to a lot of my friends. Or you respec into someone else. But then, let's say, like, you made a character who was, like, one of our friends is doing an Elden Ring playthrough right now. I've been watching her. And she is like a gravity like mage thing who does the rock slinging. And she's not at Malekith yet, but I'm like, the second you get to, you're just going to obliterate Malekith because he can't stand up to rock sling. So it's the issue is not Malekith in a vacuum. The issue is that you've made a game where you can get to Malekith as like a dozen completely different characters, and like 3 of them are going to obliterate him, and 9 of them are going to have it's going to be complete hell for them. That's to me the issue with Elden Ring's design.
How would you solve that issue, though?
No, but I think that's why the soul, like when you're talking about the lost arts of the design, that like Demon Souls is a game where like all the bosses have a weird gimmick to them. But you can do it on any build. Like some of them are easier and some of them are harder.
True,
but like
yeah,
like you can like Storm King like does not require you to have a ranged build to fight it. You just need to grab the sword. And like Tower Knight, again, like, if you have a ranged build, Tower Knight's very easy. If you don't, you can hit him till he falls over, and then you can attack the top of him. And I actually think that comes out of Miyazaki having worked on Armored Core. Because Armored Core is a series that's all about having different builds. So Armored Core has to design all of its bosses and its missions kind of around the idea of, like, okay, you could be approaching this as, like, a really agile thing. You could be approaching it as, like, a big tank covered in missiles. You could be approaching it as any number of different, like, configurations.
You could retreat to the absolute edge of the map and just try to snipe your way through it.
Yeah, so it has to take into account, okay, well, we can't just have it, like, it's really fast or it's really tough. There has to be some other element that you can exploit. And, again, I think that is why, like, Malenia is so, like... people are very angry about Malenia. Because Malenia is a boss that would work really well in Sekiro. She's not, like, in a vacuum, she's not a terrible boss. The problem is we're not playing Sekiro. Again, like, it's like Malekith. If you come to Malenia and you're, like, two-handing a massive greatsword, you're just dead. Like, you're going to have to spend, like... Your choice is either give up on the build you've got, or it's, like, spend, like, literal weeks learning every single move and what's safe to punish, and then you can do it. But that wouldn't happen if she had some weird gimmick. It'd be different. What it really makes me think of, actually, is the path down to Bed of Chaos in Dark Souls 1. Because all those bosses are immune to fire, apart from Fire Sage. Like, they'll either be massively resistant to fire, or they won't take damage at all. And the game is aware that some people are playing pyromancers. And if you're a pyromancer, you have, like, your offensive potential is going to be massively capped against those things. So what it does is, it inserts either an NPC that can solo the boss for you, which is Quelag and Mildred. in Ceaseless Discharge, they write a gimmick into the boss fight where you never actually have to fight Ceaseless. You can just run and he will fall off the cliff.
Mm.
And then they introduce, if you're a pyromancer and you've been leveling up the pyromancy covenant, you can just skip the entirety of Lost Izalith and go directly to Bed of Chaos. So they work that into the game.
They did the same thing. Yeah. They did the same thing for the Moonlight Butterfly, where you can just summon Beatrice if you don't have a ranged weapon.
Yeah,
she can just do it for you.
Yeah. So I think like it's not like the boss design in a vacuum. It's like getting a boss that's like would have worked really well in Sekiro and sticking it in a game that's not Sekiro. Like Bloodborne makes it work because Bloodborne knows, like, even though it's an RPG and you can like level stats and everything, it technically has build. Everyone in it is going to be based around dodging and riposting.
And the rallying mechanic. So you're always you have endless healing, technically speaking.
Yeah.
And you see in like Elden Ring, Radon is pretty much the best boss they have there. You don't have to touch Radon. You like everybody has access to Torrent, and if you can just be on the other side of the field from Radon, it's done. You win. Mm-hmm. Just summon to win. And
that's how Sin did it.
What?
It's how Sin just sent waves and waves of summons at Radon. Like, go on, do it. You're doing great.
I hate myself when I play Souls games. I always have to like. I'm like, first playthrough, I'm gonna beat everything. I'm not gonna summon. I'm like that's always my goal, and I punish myself really hard on that. It's funny because I think for me it was Radon took me the longest. It was like my first playthrough. No, he was the before he got patched. So he was
Chad
version 1. Hard as fuck. Like those meteors, those homing meteors killed you in one hit, and it took me like over 100 tries. But I beat him. No horse, no nothing. And then Melania only took me 20. And I was like, wow. And I was running like 2 great swords. I'm like, Guts got 1 great sword. I'm a whole 2. But then like when I did other playthroughs as like a spellcaster or like a bleed build, that flipped completely. Like Radon was really easy. And then Melania took me like forever with those other playthroughs. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I like the idea that the difficulty spikes are going to be different for different builds. Yeah. But like with Melania or like with Malekith, they're just like Malekith. You can find that stone shard from Rykard that sort of dodges him, but but it's not enough. Like Morgott and Moke, they have those shackles that you can use to really just bind them down so that you can actually get some free hits in. But like with Malekith, they really needed to have you can shoot him. Like, imagine if they did like with the Dragon God, where you can just shoot him with a ballista, or like what they did with Dragon God and with Calamite, actually, where you can just shoot him with a ballista if you can't actually keep up and do all the rolling and dodging, and then he's just slower. Maybe he hits harder, but he's slower, and you can sort of manage it better.
Yeah, or just something that like maybe like Fume Knight in Dark Souls 2. Well, like, Fume Knight initially has, like, HP regen, but if you get rid of all the idols around the side, which takes, like, you have to go and explore the rest of the zone to do. If you do that, he's much easier. And I feel like Malekith, to me, the thing that fucks up Malekith is when he lands and he does this massive, like, blade flurry. Because if you're a character that has to be close to him to hit him, you, like... You have to just, like, he's open, but you can't do anything because of the risk of him doing the blade flurry.
Yeah.
Which is also, like, if you watch Let Me Solo Her fight Melania, this is, like, the guy whose entire claim to fame is he's very good at fighting Melania. If you watch him do it, most of the fight is him not actually fighting Melania because she's so risky to actually punish. So the only way to safely fight her is she has, like, 1 or 2 moves that she won't immediately chain into something else. So he's just waiting for her to do that.
Long stab thing where she slices up.
Yeah, where it's like a really obvious, like, you can hit her. Yeah.
Yeah, and every other hit she does, he's just kiting her around the arena until she does that. And to me, like,
I did that. I did that with Nameless King. I still do that because like I remember the first time I played Nameless King, I had a hard time beating him, and like there's that one move where he like jumps in the air, charges for a bit, and then like lands. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I just keep waiting for him to do that, and then I hit him.
The first time I beat Nameless King, I was in the Katarina set.
Nice.
My memory of that fight is this little onion rolling through all of Nameless King's attacks.
What is y'all's like worst like rage? Do you just have to get? Do y'all have like a worst rage moment with these games? 'Cause I have like
Midir.
okay, well, what's the
Yeah,
story?
because-
I want to hear these stories.
For Midir, for me, it was I didn't own the Ring City DLC. My cousin owned it, and he had already beaten it, and he was like he wasn't on New Game Plus. He was on a new character, and he had just entered the Ring City DLC, and he asked me if I wanted to try it, and I was like, yeah, I like this game. I don't think I'd gotten into either DLC, but he was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like fighting and doing it. And then I fought Midir on the bridge, and I was like, this was kind of a neat setup. Like the encounter with him when he's like spewing fire on you, very Demon Soulsy. I kind of like this. This was pretty cool. It's like a better version of the Undead Dragon. But it's kind of mixed with the dragons from Boletaria. Very cool. And he's like, you think that's cool? Let me show you how to get to him so you can fight him. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be cool. And I go down there, and it's just like, this is the least interesting dragon I've ever fought in any of these games, because it is literally just dodge, and then attack the legs, dodge. And it's just like, the hard thing about this fight is that I don't have the patience because it is so boring. And
he is a big hit sponge, unless you're hitting his head, I think. Yeah, his head is like, if you're not hitting his head, he's just like, he has a huge amount of health.
Especially in retrospect, because now I've fought Elden Lord Placidus X. That is an amazing fight.
Yes.
It's like,
I love that boss.
Yeah, because it's like, he actually fights like a dragon, and he has like this weird body where it's just like really lumpy and sort of deformed.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of room to punish. You just can't be stationary because he summons lightning.
They turned Midir, a dragon boss, into like an Artorias fight. Like that's what he basically is. Yeah. So, and like it doesn't really work with that.
Yeah, and that's why, to me, like, Sekiro and Bloodborne are my two favorites out of the series. Because they're both about, like, punishing enemy attacks is, like, a core mechanic. Like, every time someone in Sekiro attacks you, you want to attack back. You don't want to get out of the way and wait for them to finish the combo. Like, you want to deflect, and then you're like, it's like this constant, like, back and forth thing. So it has that really good flow to it. Whereas in Elden Ring, like we're saying, Melania, who is clearly like a Sekiro boss, when she's doing a big combo, you just have to run away from her.
Are you saying that Melania and Mikola are just the recycled lost DLC for Sekiro about Tomoe and Takeru?
Probably. Like, let's not even... Let's not even beat around the bush there.
Nah,
they do that though with like Sekiro too. Then they basically put in a Bloodborne boss with the Demon of Hatred in Sekiro. Yeah. They've been doing that now.
Yeah. So my like, I don't know if it's a rage moment as much as a like, I'm just so fucking bored moment, which was Elden Beast.
Yeah.
Because Elden Beast is like,
they should have had Torrent there. Oh.
It just moves away from you. Like, you run up to it, you hit it like twice, and it's like, okay, bye. It does the fact that it doesn't even acknowledge you're doing it. It's just like, whoop, and it goes under the water, and then you just have to, where is it? Oh, it's over there, and it's such a massive arena.
Yeah.
It's similar to what Rom does in Bloodborne, where like Rom will teleport
that's a
around.
good comparison, yeah.
Rom's arena's small.
Yeah.
And Rom only teleports after you've depleted like a third of her hit points, then she disappears. Elden Beast is just, it's like you are a football player chasing this thing. And then like second you get there, you're like, oh, thank God, whack. 1 pixel of health off, and then it just goes, okay, bye.
Yeah. Do you feel like they de-aggroed the Elden Beast a bit, though, with some patch? I feel like the first time I fought the Elden Beast, just like that Spitfire ball that just follows you for half a minute, I feel like I was fighting that, and he was also doing those wave sword attacks. I feel like now, when he moves away, he mostly leaves me alone to get back to him.
Well, I also think like you've hit on something else about like Elden Beast that is like, they haven't done this before, and I hate that they've done it, which is like, there is an attack you cannot avoid. Like that homing ball thing, like, I know that there's like some very specific way of using like Bloodhound Step and everything, but basically like it's just, if it does that, you're going to be hit by it. And people's response to it is to tell you, well, you need to equip this specific physic that will like block holy damage, or like
I don't
it's
like
the same
that.
with Moog. You need to block Moog. Yeah, like I feel like stuff. Moog annoys me less. I think 'cause he only does it once.
Yeah.
Sure.
Also, and Moog at least has the. I can't believe I'm defending Moog here. Moog is like Moog has the courtesy to at least do it during his phase transition.
yeah.
So like
you
he's
can,
doing,
like-
he's standing still, going like that, and it's like, okay, at least you're not also shooting homing lasers at me.
Yeah, which is like not with Elden Beast. It's like he'll do that, and then they'll like also attack you.
The ability
I-
to chain all these attacks that track you together from the other side of the thing is like, oh my god.
Yeah, maybe it needed, like, maybe Elden Ring just needed the Sekiro parry, like the deflect.
I was waiting to discover that as a weapon art, because as soon as I found Melania, I'm like, this is clearly designed for Sekiro deflection.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a katana I've missed that's got that as the L2. I'm like, no.
Well, there's that mod that's coming. I'm sure y'all have heard of the Arch Thrones mod.
Yeah.
Where they have a deflect, like even with shields,
Yeah.
you can do a little deflect, and they've made the enemies different. I'm like, that's a great idea. I think
That
that's
is a really
great way
good
to
idea.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I feel like that's sort of like, so much of Elden Ring is made out of bits of other game that weren't finished,
Mhm.
like the worm things, the ulcerated spirits are like a Dark Souls 3 enemy. The wolf is like another Dark Souls 3 enemy. Melania is like, maybe she's not literally from Sekiro, but she's clearly made of bits of Sekiro. And I feel like shoving all those things together just led to like encounters that are just kind of all over the place.
That makes sense. Yeah, for me it was so it's a funny story. So my phone was cracked. That's how it starts. I had a cracked phone. And I went to this place called You Break It, We Fix It. They fixed my phone. I get home, and I'm playing Dark Souls 3 DLC. I'm in that area, the snow area with the Corvians, the ones that have like the 1,000,000 hit combo, you know? The ones with the rapiers and the one, yeah. And I'm like, I have like 80,000 something souls. I drop them, like, okay, I gotta go get those. I get ambushed by 2 of them, and they just go hog wild on me. And I get angry. I kind of like slam my controller down, right? Like just kind of like going downward with my controller. But my phone was on my leg, so I cracked my phone again. So I had to go back to the You Break It, We Fix It. And he's like, "Oh, you're already back?" I'm like, "I'm sorry." that was
He's
the
like, you
worst,
must be a Souls
experience.
player.
That would have been hilarious if we figured that out.
Sin, what's your biggest rage moment?
Yeah.
I think my biggest rage moment was when I first played Bloodborne, which was my first Soulsborne game, and it was within the first 10 minutes. And then I literally threw the game in the trash.
Oh my god.
He's not joking. She actually put it in the trash.
It wasn't physical, it was digital, so I had to take the PlayStation and put it in the trash.
Well, what happened? Like, what bothered you?
Those first 4 Yarnamites just couldn't make it back.
What happened from there? Like, how did you eventually get back to taking it? Did you just take it out shamefully? Just kind of.
That's a long story.
Oh wow!
And it's actually documented on Don't Give Up Skeleton on a podcast I had with Jeremy Greer a few years back.
Wow.
So I'll link it below if anybody's interested. Yeah. Sophie, do the outro.
That was the Snack Covenant, episode 322, Solaire ostensibly. Our special guests were Internet Pitstop and AesirAesthetics.
Bongo, yes.
Shitty internet roommate.
Shitty internet roommate. If people want to find you, they probably already know where to find you, but tell us again.
You can find me at the Internet Pitstop on just YouTube. Just YouTube, yeah.
Awesome. And Acer, where can people find you?
You can find me on the most robust and greatest of all social media platforms, Twitter, at AesirAesthetics. You can also find me on the YouTubes. I still do the YouTubes. If you're listening to this and you're like,
What's YouTube?
I feel like, I feel like you should be subscribed to me already. Like, I've been here like 20 times. If you're not subscribed to me already, like, you're not. I'm not gonna convince you now.
The only people who won't sub to you will also not sub to us.
That's true.
This is what I've learned. There was that tier ranking you showed, and it's like Acer shit tier, And it's like, we're like down the bottom is the absolute worst.
Well, Sophie, if people want to find you, where should they look for you?
I don't use social media anymore. It's horrible. I'm just here. Actually, no. You can find me on Discord. If you're in our Discord and you do want to talk to me about something, you can just DM me because I don't have that thing where it's like you have to be my friend. You can just DM me.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sin.
Thank you, IP.
Thank you, Sid.
Thank you, Acer.
I had another thing about Solaire.
What's the lore of the centipede demon? Let's talk about that.
Thank you, Sin.
Did you know Lost Island used to be a swamp? And if you delete the lava, there's still the plants under it?
Thank you, Acer.
Thank you, Sin.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. And see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, Sue.
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
What do I say?
Chelsea.
Ciao, Sue. Ciao, Sue, IP.
Chelsea.
Ciao Su.
Ciao, Sue.
Ciao
Fired.
Su.
You've got the point.
Okay.
Chelsea's slander didn't float.
Chelsea chosen on deck.
No, Ostrava is a Slav because Ostrava means islands in Russian.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a Slav too.
Who's a Slav?
IP. I'm Bosnian.
Oh my god.
We're all
Yeah.
Slavs here.
that's
Yeah, Sophie is a Slav by
not.
association.
Oh, okay.
Well, as our son, you're also Slav, Acer,
Oh,
so
yeah.
pretty cool.
Ah.
But with the political climate these days, I'm the only Slav who can't specify which kind of Slav I am.